And joining us now to break down what happens next now after the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Dr. Janine Craybill, Associate Professor of Political Science at CSU Bakersfield. Good morning. So good to see you. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Craybill.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on today.
All right, so let's talk about the process of confirming a new justice. Is it even feasible to push this through before the election, just about 43 days away?
It's not the way that it's usually done in such a pinch of time, but constitutionally there's really nothing that, or even procedurally because of rule changes that have happened from 2013 and 2017 to stop the Republicans, particularly Mitch McConnell, from pushing this through. We have had Supreme Court judges appointed in presidential election years. In the 20th century, we've usually seen them, like President Taft had done this, Woodrow Wilson has done this, and other presidents, but it's usually been earlier, either earlier in the spring or earlier in the summer, not so close up to a presidential election. Now, when we look at the 19th century, there were some cases where judges were put in place rather closely to the election, but one could argue that some of these seats weren't as politicized that the way that they are now. So to some extent, I would argue this is unprecedented.
And we heard Senator Mitch McConnell say that the difference this year is that the Senate and White House are both controlled by Republicans versus in 2016 when they were controlled by opposing parties. And he said that's why he wanted to wait until the election then to vote on a nominee. Is this some sort of precedent he's following, or is it just arbitrary?
It's arbitrary. There's absolutely no precedent for that. Mitch McConnell is going back on his word from the 2016 election, as is others. Lindsey Graham, who is now the chairperson of the Senate Judiciary Committee, very important position. In 2016, he stated that he would, and that we could even quote him, and that he would be supportive of waiting until the next president came in to fill a judicial vacancy, particularly on the Supreme Court. And he too seems to be going back on what he is stating. It'll be very interesting because the Republicans have a majority, 53 in the Senate. We no longer have the filibuster in terms of having to close a vote on a nominee with a two-thirds majority. So now it could go through with a simple majority. So some of these Republican senators that have spoken out, like Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski, they may be able to help in terms of slowing down this process. But you're definitely going to need at least 4 to 5 Republicans that defect, and I'm not certain that will take place.
If President Trump's nominee is confirmed, it will be his third appointment to the Supreme Court and will likely shift the balance even further towards the conservative side. What does this really do to the court, and what kind of cases they could take up and the decisions we could see?
Well, it does several things to the court. One is that it really does put more of a conservative majority in play. There are several, the new session is about to start here in October. And so you've had a couple of different arguments also being put forth to the table that might be a reason to get a justice in sooner rather than later. However, with the election coming up, we know the debate on both sides. But some of the key cases that they'll be seeing is, for example, California versus Texas this year is looking at if the mandate for the Affordable Care Act is constitutional or not. And that's something that we've been debating in this country for quite some time. There's also an important search and seizure case, Torres versus Madrid, coming up. The United States versus Briggs is looking at prosecution for rape under the Military Code of Justice. So there are some important, crucial cases coming up that are going to be decided and really paid attention to.
All right, and then just really quickly here, we've heard Democrats saying that they have a lot of options on the table if the Republicans in the Senate go ahead and push through this nominee. Options we've heard thrown around, such as impeachment, articles brought again, or even expanding the Supreme Court. What are the likelihood of those two things happening?
I don't think that they're very likely. Expanding the Supreme Court would would take time, and it would, and I don't think that we would be able to see that happen. And in terms of impeachment and drawing up articles, the idea is that that would have to take precedent and it would slow the process. But they also have to think too that the American people just went through an impeachment process, and that might not be something that they think is the best use of the Senate's time right now, heading into election and still dealing with the pandemic. So I think they're going to need to think of another strategy.
That could backfire perhaps on Democrats.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Janine Craybill, thank you so much this morning for joining us and breaking those issues down. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
You as well.